Hi, everybody. I'm Norm DeVay, and this is the Copa Roundup for the week ending January 14th, second Friday of the new year, 2022 already. We are just plowing ahead forward. Now, I can't tell a whole lot of difference between 2021 and 2022, other than the fact that it seems like our COVID-19 numbers are going up. So hopefully we will get that taken care of this year, 2021. But we have so many great things coming up, and I always find it a little bit refreshing right after the Christmas, Kwanzaa, Hanukkah, New Year holidays that we roll right into work for a couple weeks, and then we've got the celebration of Dr. Martin Luther King's life as a holiday. And today we've got Ken Mack, who is the BHS House coordinator with Community Living Services, joining us. He's going to talk a little bit about Dr. King's legacy, and then also February is Black History Month, and we never have enough opportunity to talk about that. So, hey, Ken, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great, Norm. How about yourself?
Ken, I am just fantastic. I see you there with your headphones on, and I think now he looks like a professional broadcaster. I need to get him on air someplace so that he can. Of course, you've got a face for TV. I've got a face for radio, but
no, I think I have more of a face for radio as well. So that makes two of us. Okay.
We'll go along with that. So, everything going on okay in your life? By the way, are you vaccinated?
Yes, I am. I'm fully vaccinated, and I'm anticipating getting the booster real soon here. So.
Well, good for you, Ken. That makes you one of our Copa Health superheroes, and I really appreciate you doing that. Anybody who hasn't been vaccinated, you really can make a difference by getting out there and becoming vaccinated. And like Ken said, when you get the opportunity to get that booster too. So, Ken, can you tell us the importance of Martin Luther King Day and how his legacy lives on, not just today, but has for the last 50 some years?
Well, yes. First of all, I'd like to express my admiration for Dr. King because, he never portrayed himself as a victim. Despite everything that happened to him, he never advocated any violence. He never advocated any hatred. And it was just unfortunate for me for him to have to sacrifice his life to fight this battle. In a country that, in the middle of the 20th century, in a country that wrote the Declaration of Independence in the U.S. Constitution, those words that contained in those documents, they were profound, they were eloquent, they were powerful, and they set the course of our nation being born and being created, So, when you really read those documents and you realize what was happening in the middle of the 20th century, it's just an astounding contradiction. And so this is the type of mentality that Martin Luther King was, faced with. And I think in many ways, it transcends just the racial aspect. There's a mentality that I think that's in play here. This country, we fought a revolution, to end the tyranny of the King of England. The King of England had absolute, arbitrary power to do whatever he wanted to his subjects, because he was the king and he felt he was chosen by God, and the peasants were just subjects. Well, that type of mentality we won our independence from England, but we carried over that same type of mentality, Black people at the time, we continued slavery because Black people were considered less than human. So that kind of made it easier to marginalize, us, when you consider us just being, just partially human. Same thing with the Native Americans when you passed, the Indian Removal Act, which led to the Trail of Tears. We consider them just savages. So it was easy to marginalize them to do what we did. And even in the westward expansion, we use manifest destiny as a justification for the thousands of Hispanics that were killed for their land. So it's just a mentality that I think that Dr. King kind of made us aware of. That we're all children of the same God, and I think if we remember that and don't forget our past, I mean, that's a way that to me, that he was such an important figure.
Yeah, and when you talk about that, it's just so powerful because it was not that long ago. And when I think about my lifetime, Dr. King obviously has been one of the most eloquent orators ever in the history of man. But in my lifetime, he was the person who probably was the most eloquent when it came to stating his position. Now, I was born in the early 60s, so it's not like, you know, I can go back to the times of Lincoln or even before that to the founding fathers. But, you know, it's interesting when you talk about the stance he took, because you're right, it wasn't just about Black people or Indian or, you know, the Spanish population. It could include even the way a lot of Chinese citizens were treated back in the day, you know, how they were used to, you know, build our railroads and whatnot. And he didn't discriminate in his support of everybody. He didn't discriminate in his, you know, efforts to try to make the world better for everybody, whether you were Black, white, Hispanic, Chinese, or whatever. It just didn't matter to him. And so I love
Absolutely.
I love that you point that out. So, you know, going along that lines, February, which is just coming up a few weeks away, is Black History Month. And every year we try to talk about Black History Month. And it's always on the heels of the day that we celebrate Dr. King. But this is the first time we've tried to put the two together. So tell us a little bit about Black History Month historically, how it came to be, and some of the things that you find really poignant and important about the entire month of February.
Well, how it originally came about, it was a man called Carter C. Woodson, and he was basically considered, you know, the father of Black history, and he was like only the first. I mean, no, he was the second African American that actually got a doctorate degree from Harvard University. And so, you know, Black history was originally a 1 week thing. And the reason that Carter C. Woodson chose February for that, you know, recognition is, you know, his admiration for Frederick Douglass. You know, he was an abolitionist, and also Abraham Lincoln. So though he admired those two men, and this is why, you know, he chose February as the week to recognize. And the reason he felt it was necessary to recognize, you know, Black history is because you got to understand, you know, during the whole 240 plus years of slavery, Black people were not allowed to read, to write, or be educated, or even congregate among themselves, you know, so they didn't understand their history. And so he thought that was important, you know, for, you know, to instill some sense of pride in them and to know something about themselves. And so later on, you know, it was later in 1976 when it actually was Gerald Ford who actually you know, acknowledged Black history and gave it a whole month. Myself, I don't particularly celebrate, you know, Black History Month per se, because I don't know how you could really separate Black history from any other history. And so that's just my stance on it.
Yeah, it is interesting when you put it that way, because it's the history of man. But when you celebrate any portion of our society, any segment of our society, there's always significant things that you have to point to. For instance, I know Colin Powell, you know, General Powell passed away in the last month, and he was such a big influence on me. I always respected him so much, and President Obama becoming the first Black president in the United States, and then you've got Vice President Harris completely breaking down so many barriers.
Yes.
You know, with not just the fact that she's Black, but also she's a woman. She's the first woman executive who's either president or vice president. So I just think that you know, celebrating really is a way to bring to the forefront, you know, things that were accomplished, just like we do Abraham Lincoln's birthday or George Washington's birthday. So do you do anything special, you know, for either Dr. King's birthday or Martin Luther King Day or
Yes, I
like
have
this?
been to a few of the the celebrations on it, to celebrate his birth. I've been to some of those, and and I absolutely agree with you. It is important that we do understand and recognize everyone, not only Black people, but I think one of the reasons where it is kind of important, because a lot of people don't even realize or understand the accomplishments and the contributions that many Black people did make to this country. And when I mentioned mentality earlier, the reason why Martin Luther King was so important is because there's been a mentality that's kind of woven within the fabric of our human history. And if you look back in history, almost without exception, all the inhumanities that's ever happened in this world is because some leader or a group of people felt that they're somehow intrinsically more valuable than another group of people. And if you can get rid of that mentality, I mean, we could go a long way into having peace, among ourselves, because we're all a member of the same, pool of humanity. And I think the sooner we can understand that and break down these differences, I think the better we would be.
I like that so much, because there's always been phrases, whether they come from speeches or literature or our founding fathers' documents. But one of them that's always affected me is we find these things self-evident, and they're just some things that should be self-evident.
Yes,
that all men and women are created equal.
absolutely.
And that doesn't mean that I'm going to be, as tall as Bill Walton or Magic Johnson or anything like that. It just means that under the eyes of the law, and when it comes to respect, we should have all be treated, with the same decency and courtesy. So I really appreciate that point of view.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I would encourage everyone to, just to go back and actually listen to the Dr. King's I Have a Dream speech. He said that speech back in 1963, but it still has relevance to it, and it's a very profound speech. And he actually kind of retro back to the Declaration of Independence in the U.S. Constitution, to bring consciousness to this nation, of those words that were said and what they meant for all of us.
Yeah, I'm always throwing out there, names and stuff. I'm a bit of a name dropper in situations that, always make me look like, wow, he's really lived a life. But one of the things that occurred to me a couple of years ago, I was watching a piece on 60 Minutes about Dr. King's original speech, and how it was written, and when he delivered it. And there was a young man standing just a few feet away from him when he was making that speech, named George Raveling. And George Raveling ended up becoming, obviously, college educated, and he became a coach for basketball in the college ranks. And I met him at the University of Iowa when he was at the University of Iowa. He had a book club there, and I didn't meet him at the book club because I wasn't reading that much back then, but I had an opportunity to meet him. I shook his hand, and I realized a couple of years ago, after I found this out, George Raveling owns the original copy of that speech.
Wow.
Right after the speech, he walked up to Dr. King and said, I was just so impressed. Do you mind if I have that? And Dr. King, not knowing the historical significance of it at the time, said, oh, sure. And he gave it to him. And George Raveling found it years later with the handwritten notes, because the I Have a Dream part was not part of the written speech. It was stuff that he just added in.
You're right.
And, so I always think to myself, wow, I've shook the hand of the man who owns or has possession of Dr. King's speech. And he used to tell people all the time that he would get offered a lot of money. And he said, no, it needs to either be in a museum or something, but look it up. George Raveling is a great, great man. So,
wow, well, you've educated me, Norm, because I was not aware of that at all. So that's pretty cool.
I've known George Raveling since my days at the University of Iowa, and but I did not know that about the speech, and I did not know that about his background. He was just a young Black guy who was going to school, and they were looking for people to come and not be security, but just people to be up on the stage to make sure that everything was being kept as orderly as possible. And George Raveling, Coach Raveling, just happened to be standing fairly close to Dr. King, and I wouldn't have had the nerve to say to somebody, whether it was Dr. King or President Obama or or even right now President Biden, hey, could I have that speech? But
Right.
he did, and he got it. So it was kind of a fun little piece of trivia there.
Cool. I was not aware of that. See, you educated me today, so that's great.
Well, yeah, I know a lot of things, a lot of little things about a lot of things, but I think you probably know a lot more about the subjects that we're talking about. But Ken, listen, I really appreciate you being on today. I know that we are going to be doing something in June for Juneteenth, and we've talked to some people about coming on, but I'd like to see if you could be involved in that too. And everything's going okay in your life, though. The job's going okay. You're staying healthy.
Yes, I am. For an old man, I'm staying as healthy as I possibly can be. Yes, so doing pretty good.
Well, I never look at you and think of an old man because you just look so good. I mean,
well, I turned 66 last month. So
you did not.
Yes, I did. Yeah.
All right. Well, I tell my wife all the time, she's slightly older than me chronologically. It's not the age, it's not the years, it's the mileage. And I think that you look like you're still young at heart, and you've led a good life. So, but I really appreciate you being on, and thank you so much.
Well, thank you for inviting me. Thank you so much.
All right. Well, we're going to have you back again sometime, because I just love how professional you look there with the headphones and everything. So.
No, I play piano, so this is what I use those for too. So.
Oh, we got to get you to play piano for us. Okay, everybody. So that is our Copa Roundup for the week ending January 14th, 2022. I cannot believe it, 2022. That sounded like a science fiction year when I was a kid. It just seems so far off, but now it is here. And actually, now when I think about it, because of the struggles we're having with the pandemic right now, it kind of is like a science fiction show. So I got to be careful with that. Once again, I talk about this every week. You can really make a difference, not only in your life, but in the lives of all those around you. Go out and get vaccinated, and make the world just a little bit safer place, so we can all, leave 2020 and 2021 behind us, and 2022 can be a new year where we're going to kick this pandemic and put it back where it needs to be, and that's in the history books. So we will see you all next week. Take care.